What is a convention of states? Let's begin by reviewing the Constitution, Article 5. Let's read the third way to amend the Constitution. Or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress. Look at your Constitution and find that phrase towards the middle of Article 5. Read it closely. It says conventions in the states. It doesn't say send representatives to a national convention. Then the last phrase is referring to the ratification process of the previous two methods of amending the Constitution. Consider what was happening during the Philadelphia Convention. The states were jealously guarding their sovereignty. They did not want the federal government to have too much power. The first two amendment processes required action by the federal government, but the third required action only by the states. What actually happened during the latter part of the 1770s with regards to this type of convention? After the Constitution was signed, the Constitutional Convention officially sent the signed document to the Congress. The Congress then went to the states for ratification. Each state then held a convention within their state. They then replied to the Congress with their comments. The states wanted further control over the federal government, so their ratification was contingent upon the addition of the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights was then drafted and returned to the states for their conventions. I have copies of all of these documents showing the actions of every state and all of those states. Let's extract the wording from each of the documents. First, Article 7 of the Constitution itself. The ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for establishment of this Constitution. Do you see the requirement? Conventions of 9 states in those states. Next, the document to Congress. In convention, Monday, September the 17th, 1787. Present the states of New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Mr. Hamilton from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Resolved. Be submitted to a convention of delegates chosen in each state by the people thereof under the recommendation of its legislator for their assent and ratification, and that each convention assenting to and ratifying the same. See the requirement? Each of the states hold a convention to ratify the document. Next, each state ratified the Constitution totally or with conditions and returned a letter to Congress with their comments. Finally, the Congress returned their result to the states. The Congress of the United States begun and held at the city of New York on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1781. The conventions of a number of the states, having at the time of their adopting the Constitution expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of the powers. Again, the document was sent to the states' conventions. That was the process, and it was followed exactly. Conventions of the states meant conventions in the states themselves. Each state convened a convention with their representatives to review the proposed documents. Those actions were not actions of the legislatures of the states, but separate conventions that considered the question and were then dissolved. Today, many with agendas of their own are using some of the words of the Constitution to convene a Constitution which they are incorrectly calling a convention of the states. This convention will be held to destroy our current Constitution for their own nefarious purposes. They first tried to convene a constitutional convention which was generally rejected. Now they are trying another way to accomplish the same objective.